Good afternoon. Today, me, Begoña Bernardes, and my team, Adriana Segura, Paulina Cordova, Daniel Hernandez, and Fernanda Guerrero, will present the context and setting of Wuthering Heights. As you can see here, we have the Bronte.
In the 19th century, Romanticism flourished at the same time that French Revolution and the U.S. independence were going on. Romanticism held the passion for being free, exalted feelings, and small towns, and life in small towns. At the beginning of the 19th century, the Victorian period began. In this period, there were many strikes that helped factories open for women. Also, women in literature began to rise. They began to publish literature with male names. Even though Wuthering Heights is written in the Victorian period, is more likely to Romanticism. Emily Bronte, the author of Wuthering Heights, suffered a lonely childhood and separation. She went to boarding school and she lived in the Yorkshire moor at the north of England. The Bronte's children created their kingdom to play and imagine stories. Emily and her sister Charlotte wrote their adventures and they tried to publish them, but rejection made them take male names and they were known as the Bell Brothers.
Mr. Lockwood is the new tenant of Throsworth Ranch. Wuthering Heights is the name of Miss Heathcliff's dwelling. It's a very cold, isolating, misanthropist and lugubrious. Mr. Lockwood and Mr. Heathcliff are misanthropists. In chapter 1, we know that Mr. Lockwood is who narrates the story. Before passing the threshold, Mr. Lockwood detected the date 1500s and the name Herton Earnshaw. At the end, they start to talk of the advantages and disadvantages of his present place of retirement.
The next day, he decided to go from the Thorncross Ranch to Wuthering Heights. It was snowing and he had to walk for 4 miles. When he got there, no one opened the door until Mr. Earnshaw got there and led him to the house. When he entered the house, he saw a woman that is Mrs. Heathcliff, who is really beautiful but really rough with him. After a while, Mr. Heathcliff arrived, and then he tried to infer the relationship between Mr. Earnshaw, Mrs. Heathcliff, and Mr. Heathcliff, but he was always wrong. This made mad Mr. Earnshaw, but at the end he knew that Mrs. Heathcliff was the daughter-in-law of Mr. Heathcliff, and his son was dead. Then Mr. Lockwood got mad and tried to go, but in the moment he was leaving, the dogs attacked him. In this moment, everyone was laughing until Scylla got there and helped him. And in this moment, Mr. Heathcliff decided to leave him stay in the house.
Chapter 3 starts when Scylla takes him to a room to stay, but only she knows he's there. He is falling asleep when he starts reading at the ledge of the window names like Catherine Linton, Catherine Earnshaw, and Catherine Heathcliff. He finds a testament that is written like a diary in 1776. It might be written hidden. An entry said about how Master Hindley ordered Joseph to do a sermon for 3 hours in the garret for Catherine, Heathcliff, and a ploughboy. It also talks about the mistreatment Heathcliff received and how Catherine is suffering so badly because of this. Lockwood falls asleep again and has a very strange dream of going to the church with Joseph and being beaten of the people because he complains of how long it was. Then Lockwood has a nightmare about Catherine Linton. He starts seeing a branch that is making noise with the window, so he wants to open it but he can't. Then he hears Catherine Linton calling him to let her in. He's so terrified that when her hand grabs his hand, he starts cutting Catherine so he will let her go. He was very terrified and he decides to scream. That was not a good decision because when he starts yelling, Heathcliff enters terrified and Lockwood mentions Catherine Linton. Then Heathcliff starts crying very badly and tells the ghost to return. Lockwood wants to leave immediately. Next morning, Scylla is punished by Heathcliff and Catherine is almost hit by him. At the end of chapter 3, Heathcliff guides Lockwood to Thrush.
Chapter 4 starts with the arrival of Mr. Lockwood to Thrushcross Ranch. And, well, he arrives and Mrs. Dean, a servant, starts telling him the story of Heathcliff's family. And he was very curious about it. So, she starts telling him that Mr. Heathcliff was very rich, but he didn't change his place because he was very close-handed. So, she starts telling the story from the top when they were children, member in the family. But after a while, Heathcliff and Catherine grew very close, and he also turned into Mr. Earnshaw's favorite. So Hindley was very mean to him and he hated him every time he could. And one time they had horses. In the beginning of chapter 5, Mr. Earnshaw starts to feel ill, so he was weak and didn't have like the health he had when he was young. So Hindley liked to bother him